What's up, everybody? My name is Jason, and welcome to Small Biz. In today's video, we're going to talk about how a red-hot inflation number set this market down and then up, with the Dow adding almost 100 points as big cap tech sees some short covering. But as Bitcoin begins to give way, barely holding on to 70K, the obvious question of this day is, are we still in a massively overbought market? And what's going on with the 7, and in particular, one of our stocks? All that and more coming right up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have to be somewhere in an hour, but I want to do this video while I still have time. Happy Tuesday to you. Let me start off by saying the inflation number caught the market by surprise. And about halfway into the open, it looked like we were going to obey an inflation number that would send the 10-year up and the rest of the market down, but that didn't happen, did it? Somebody said something. I don't know if it was a Fed governor, but all of a sudden, here comes NVIDIA, here comes SMCI, here comes Meta on what I think is short covering because the volume is not heavy. They're basically trying to recapture half of what they lost. NVIDIA dropped 125. It's up about 70 points from where it bottomed a couple of days ago. It's a bull trap. This market is still in nosebleed territory, in particular on the weekly charts, which are just starting to hook down and still above 80 on the stochastics. So I think the next 30 to 60 days are still sideways to down at least 3 to 5%. And it could be that and more in terms of individual stocks. And before I cover the stocks that we currently own inside of our core holdings, let me take a moment quickly to remind everyone how you can build significant wealth over the next 10 years and beyond. If you're like me and you're due to retire in and around 2035, you should take about 80% of your money. If you're aggressive, maybe 70% of your money, and marry it to the market. You can find all this information inside of the Discord in our Welcome and Helpful Hints channel. You marry the market. SPY, QQQ, IWM. That's 2,600 companies in 3 ETFs or index funds if you're scared of your own shadow and you have absolutely no discipline. You dollar cost average into those funds and ETFs every month. That's secret number one. You buy and hold 80% of your money. It's married to the market in index funds and ETFs. You don't need some financial advisor that's going to charge you $10,000 to tell you to put the money in 10 different buckets. You can get away with just one. SPY. 90% of all investors and fund managers don't even beat the S&P 500 every single year. I suggest you own 3. SPY, the NASDAQ 100, which is QQQ, and IWM, which is the Russell 2000 small cap. That's more than enough diversification in 3 index funds or ETFs. You dollar cost average, you buy and hold secret number 1, and then every 2 or 3 years when the market drops more than 20%, which is called a bear market, and it typically lasts, to be exact, 9.6 months, you double and triple down the further we go. So if we go down 20%, your $100 a month becomes $200 a month. And I'll be there to remind you when it happened, just like in October when I told everybody to buy the IWM, the Russell 2000 ETF at 162. And a couple of days ago, it got close to 210. And then if we keep on going down 30%, 37, which is the average bear market since 1900, of which we've had more than 40, you triple down. How do you do that? You cut back on expensive cuts of meat. You get a less expensive bottle of booze. You do whatever it takes every 2.5 years for about 9 months to load up as the market goes even lower. The other 20 or 30%, depending on your risk tolerance, you trade. Or as I often said, you marry your mutual funds, you date your stocks, you trade them. That's your fuck around and find out money. And in the second half of this video, I'm going to explain the stocks that we own and why. And I'm once again going to reiterate before I do that we've had a 93% win rate going back 17 months. Nobody believes that, right? I go out, some of you were talking about it this morning. You're trying to get your friends to join and they don't believe it. If I start talking to someone at a bar and I think they have some sense of what's going on in the market and I tell them that I've got a 93% win rate in penny stock, no, you don't. Bullshit. Nobody makes money. Most people get decimated, like those that are holding bags in 2M stocks and still refuse to sell. Most people never make money in penny stocks, let alone happen to be right more than 90% of the time. But it's a fact. If you go into our Discord, inside of the new trades channel, and scroll up about 45 miles at this point, you'll see dozens and dozens and dozens of winners. And if you ask around, and they're already starting to brew on the reopen of the Ask Jason channel, I've given over 125 winners in stocks where people say, what do you think of this? I'll do a write-up with a graph. I'll tell you when to buy, and in most cases, exactly when to get out. All of that and more, 90+% of the time, I'm correct. But what's going on inside of the Discord right now? One stock is eating up all the oxygen in the room. The one fucking stock that we're down on significantly. One. 6 others are doing just fine. I'm going to cover each one here in a second. But one stock, just like Mullen and MCOM, and you probably can't even give me another loss that we've taken in the last 6 to 12 months. They took up all the oxygen in the room. So even though I've been right over 90% of the time, even though that we have stack cash for those of you that are not cherry picking, cheating, or making excuses to the motherfucking ceiling, half of all the engagements, the DMs, and even the phone calls I get have to do with the 7% of the time that I happen to be wrong. Half. Why is this going on? How come it never goes down? Why is it now below 7 or 6 cents a share? What's going on? How come they... Pay no attention to the other 93% of the time, or well over 250 winners in the last 2 years. Pay no attention. We want to obsess over a C stock, which I'll cover last. So one at a time, let me talk about, without giving away to the freeloaders, what we own, because that's what you're paying, $50, soon to be $75 a month on April 1st at shopsmallbiz.com, which is blowing up. Quick reminder, if you got a small business, you support those that do, or you just want to make obscene amounts of money in the stock market, go to shopsmallbiz.com and sign up today. All right. The first stock on our list happens to be in the food space. It's a rebuy. Why am I buying drugs, healthcare, biotech? Because we're in an election year. And you need your food, you need your drugs, you need your healthcare. They come out with another disease X is what they're calling it. Notice Moderna's running. We've got our toes in unrelated biotech that are doing just fine up until this mild drawdown on next to no volume today. But we have a food stock that we own a penny or two off an all-time low. They're growing significantly relative to where they were last year, particularly in the seafood business. They signed a joint venture a few months ago with Cisco, not the tech company, the SYSCO company. I think it's going to make another bounce somewhere between 13 and 15. We pull the motherfucking ripcord, and there's another 30% plus winner if all goes according to plan. The C stock I'll save for last. The E stock, a biotech in stem cell therapy, helping those that happen to be vain, so vain, right? Who's that? Carly Simon? Tell me who sang that. Supposedly it's has to do with, what's his name? Oh, it's senior moment. I'm going to try to get it to come to me. I can see it. You're so vain. Who was the song about? You think the song is about you, don't you? Don't you? He's still alive. All right. Somebody tell me in the comments. I'll think of it and I'll put it there myself. But we own the stock at 70 cents. The chairman and co-CEO owns 22% of the company, well over $1. It's pumped there twice. It's a rebuy at 70. Last trade, 76 and change. And going higher, in my humble opinion, if there is such a thing as me being humble. L. Largest shareholder, name starts with a C, has been dumping, currently unloaded by our estimation over 85% of their position because they're in Chapter 11. The L stock is not. In fact, last week they settled with 28, I believe, insurers in their favor, which basically justified their business model. The CEO, whose last name starts with R, and yeah, I know that annoys some of you, tough shit, just bought 500,000 shares at $1.14. You could get some right now in and around 91 cents. 9069. 69. Did I mention that? 69? Anybody a fan of that number besides myself? I hear you, Ma. No, not funny. Rude and crude. It's rude and crude. It wasn't just enough to be rude when my ma didn't like something. It's crude, too. Rude and crude. I got you, Ma. All right, no more 69 talk. We won't get back. We won't do that anymore. All right, here we go. N something. Last trade 14, right where we own it. Subscription business growing at 64% year over year. I'm waiting on phase 2 news that could be out in the next 30 days or thereabouts. We're doing just fine. A weight loss company who starts with R. Again, we're at break even at 16 and change, call it 17. It started to percolate yesterday, but the volume wasn't there. Some of you scalpers probably sold it at 19. But most of what we own, we're up or even across the board. And the stocks are down today on less than 20% of average daily volume. And in closing, that brings me to the infamous C stock. If you go on Reddit, StockTwits, they want the CEO in a guillotine. And I empathize with the reasoning behind why so many people are pissed off. One of the largest venture capital firms in the world that happens to own Yahoo Finance, the new app is amazing, by the way, sued him about a year ago, along with another investment banker whose name starts with a B, is also suing him. Why can't you tell us the names? Because that's what you motherfucking pay me for. If you don't like it, get inside of the Discord and you'll figure out what I'm talking about. But they had delays with respect to their smart technology, which is going to start producing in the next 30 to 60 days. And there are some that believe they made up those contracts. What I think actually happened is the contracts were there, but the financing fell through. And the deals collapsed right along with the stock. And I think what's happening, including today, is the ELOC, the equipment line of credit, is being used. Personally, think about 30 minutes ago, they issued and or drew down 2.5 million shares. And I see it now poking its head at or below 7 cents a share. Yeah. Everything's terrible. Do you realize that I sent the IRS $78,000 last year, even after I sold MCOM and Mullen for a 71% loss each? If you're managing risk, putting about 10 to no more than 15% of your money into each individual stock, you're not even feeling the CRKN. There you go, freeloaders. If you want to grab something on the cheap, and I'm not doing this fucking video again, CRKN, last trade 0669. There you go, Ma. Another 60 motherfucking 9. But be advised. They're now below a dime for more than 2 weeks. They're going to get another delist notice if they haven't this morning. And there's either going to have to be a major pump related to insider buying and revenue and EBITDA projections, which are about a week or so overdue, or we're looking at another reverse split. But even if that happens, did you see what they did to fund the piece of shit I said to sell at 40 cents? It reverse split adjusted, went all the way to a dime, and then went from 5 to 15, where I once again said pull the ripcord. And then you had the holo that reverse split at $1.50 and went to 80, where I said to sell it before it came back to 5 and change. The moral of the story is reverse splits lately, kind of like crypto and shit coins, are in. So even if that stock does another reverse split like the one they did a year ago, now that their business is actually booming, there's no reason why it might not double, triple, or even more. So until next time, and that's not a fucking guarantee, always remember that I love you, and thanks for watching.